Gasp! Everybody look! The Straw Hats have assembled! Don on don on on don on don on except for Jinbei because he doesn't have a pop figurine is what I would have said, and then I checked just now and I saw that Jinbei does in fact have a pop figurine and I ordered it. That along with a couple of other ones. I got Kaido, which would have been nice to have when I did the whole who, what, when, where, why, and how is Kaido series. So whatever, but I'm getting that. Also got the Crocodile one, and now the Crocodile one has been out for a while and I always meant to get it, but I just kept putting it off. And now that Crocodile is back in the story actually doing stuff with the Cross Guild, I'm like, I need to get that pop figurine, so we'll be good. We got this giant shelf back here, which is already filled up, so yeah, I have an issue with that. Anyway, today's video, hello everybody, Teching back again, and we are going to be talking about where everybody is currently located on Egghead Island. The reason I'm making this video, I feel like honestly this is kind of necessary, is because, yeah, it's been like upwards of 3 months, a little bit over that, I think, that we've actually seen the Straw Hats. The last time the Straw Hats appeared in the chapter was chapter 1079, in the first half of 1079, and then we have the break where, Oda kind of pans out from Egghead. We're kind of leaving the island momentarily, and the narrator comes on and is just like, and then the event that will shock the world occurred the next day, don 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 don, and Kizaru and one of the Gorosei, St. J. Garcia Saturn are currently heading toward Egghead, and spoiler alert, at the end of the last chapter, chapter 1088, we saw the Marines now arriving, so we are now resuming the main storyline. Well, I shouldn't say the main storyline, because this is all the main storyline. Everything that was happening at Hachinosu is every bit as relevant as what is happening with the Reverie, which is every bit as relevant which is happening with Egghead right now. It's just that we weren't focusing on the main cast of the Straw Hat Pirates, and you know what is phenomenal about this? It's when you have a really good story that has ran for a very long time, over 26 years, or very, very close. No, I think we're right on the cusp. I think it was July 22nd is when One Piece aired in 1997, so we're very close. I'm recording this on July 20th right now, so by the time you're seeing this, it might actually be the anniversary, I'm not sure, whenever this comes out. But no, yeah, so 26 years of a serialized manga, and all of these characters that Oda has created, hundreds and hundreds of these characters, and all these different paradigms going on. You can deviate from the main cast for a little while. You can be like, okay, the main characters are not going to show up in the manga for like a little story arc for just 10 chapters or so. We're going to focus on some other characters. And nobody really complained. I haven't really heard anybody make a huge complaint of like, I want to see the Straw Hats again. I'm sure somebody has. But overall, I mean, like, it's been a while. It's been about around 10 chapters. Plus we had the 5-week break. And now we're kind of getting back to it. And it feels like it just flows very well. The pacing here seems natural. Like, we left for a little while, we got to see what Shanks was up to, we got to see what Blackbeard was up to fighting Law, we got to see what Hachinosu was up to, we got the whole other side of the Reverie flashback, and it just seemed to transition from one phase into the next, and now we're moving back to the Egghead phase, the Labo phase, as it were, okay? So, where did we leave off with the Straw Hats? Well, I'll tell you what, it would have been a little bit confusing if I didn't already make this. This is a reference table I made back when all of the Straw Hats and the Cypher Pole were all like, and the Vegapunks, the various satellites were scattered all over the lab. And I made this. This is basically a representation of the map that was in the chapter that I just drew in MS Paint to make it look like, actually show it on the channel. And so not everybody is still in the same location as on here. Some of the locations have changed, but this at least gives us a nice jumping off point here, okay? So Vegapunk's lab is based, on the Labosphere, so, above the fabrication phase below the island. It's up there. It's in the Frontier Dome in that giant cloud that's generated by the buildings below, okay? I'm just going to throw it up here and talk over it, okay? It's kind of a little bit of a podcast thing here. All right, so the building has 3 separate sections, the C building, the A building, and the B building, laid out like so. It actually spells cab, which I find funny. Okay, so Let's start at the very top. This outline is what the lab used to look like before it was bombarded by the various Seraphim, as well as sliced apart by, like, S-Hawk. So it incurred a lot of damage. You can see the tops of all these buildings were pretty much blown off. So the C building and the B building both had 3 floors. The top level of the 3rd floor on both of these buildings is damaged. So it's just kind of open to the outside, to the air. And then the A building had 4 levels, with the 4th level being the control room where everything was kind of manned and everything like that. Like, the computers were there and, like, the security and everything was at. Okay, so that was sliced apart by S-Hawk and then subsequently blown up, but I think one of S-Bear's attacks. So, you know, this is the kind of current situation we're in right now, okay? So originally, we had Luffy and Zoro and Shaka there, and also Lucci and Kaku, who were detained after Stussy, you know, subdued them. They regained their senses. They freed them from the Sea Prism Stone when S-Bear and S-Hawk showed up and the fight was on, okay? So currently, Luffy and S-Bear are the and Lucci are the only ones that are currently in the command room. Essentially, what happened with S-Hawk is that he decided that this fight was going to be too difficult, and he was like, you know, the AI in the Seraphim is pretty intelligent, I guess, or at least they're like, I guess it's not really AI. It's like, you know, an actual brain. Like, they cloned Mihawk's brain, and a bunch of other DNA is in there, and it's just in there, and he's just like, okay, analyzing. But there's also, like, security protocols programmed in. So I'm guessing it's an organic brain, because they have green blood and stuff flowing through them, but it's like an organic brain, but also it has, like, cybernetic components, I would imagine, for the security protocols, and, like, you know, like, who can order around the Seraphim and that structure and everything like that. So S-Hawk was fighting against everybody, and he realizes, like, wait a minute, this fight's going to be really hard if I continue. You know what I'll do is I'll go and find one of Luffy or Zoro's companions, one of their comrades, and then I can, like, take them hostage or attack them, and then that will distract them enough that I might be able to win. So the Seraphim are programmed not to just, like, I will hit things and damage them and kill them. It's like they are very intelligent. They can think of the bigger picture when they're in a fight. It's not just all about cutting things up. It's like a psychological angle to it, too. Like, all right, my physical might's not enough. What's a psychological angle here? Oh, I can find Nami and then, you know, like, hold my sword to her throat and be like, you know, Luffy, if you don't, you know, let me attack you, you know, I'm slit her throat or something like that. You know what I mean? So that's kind of what S-Hawk is going for right now. So Zoro notices that and he heads off. And of course, Zoro gets lost. And so Luffy calls out to Kaku, calls him Usopp, actually. Hey, Usopp, go and, you know, go and make sure Zoro doesn't get lost. That happens to him a lot. And so Kaku's just like, sure, I'll do that. What a pain in the ass. By the way, quit calling me Usopp. So last time we left them. So Zoro is running through the hallway. Kaku's probably going to try to keep him on track and everything like that. And they are currently chasing after S-Hawk. So this seems to be setting the stage for an S-Hawk versus Zoro-Kaku battle. You know, 2-on-1. That's how that's going to go, all right? By the way, I just love a little running gag throughout, like, Egghead. And it's been going on for, I think, a while now. But it's like, I feel like all the Straw Hats had, like, a group meeting when Zoro wasn't around, and they were like, okay, listen, Zoro gets lost a lot. Like, even Luffy acknowledges this. Even Luffy's like, yeah, this is gonna be a problem. So all the Straw Hats came to, like, a unanimous decision of, like, okay, we never let Zoro leave. We have to have him have a buddy. The buddy system has to always apply. And all of them unanimously agreed on this. Even Sanji, who kind of, like, likes to see Zoro run off and get lost, and even Luffy, who seems to not care about this stuff most of the time or just finds it funny or humorous. Even Luffy is like, all right, I will make sure he stays on point. We have to have the buddy system, okay? So I really like that idea, okay? So they're going off to fight S-Hawk. Lucci and Luffy and S-Bear are still in the control room, and I think they continue their attacks. Luffy tried to use, like, a Red Hawk against him when the flames were still active, and even though they found out, like, hey, you have to attack when the flames are out, otherwise it's pointless because they have Lunarian DNA. And so Luffy's like, all right, well, let me stress test this. I'm gonna punch him so hard the flames will go out. And Lucci's like, no, that's not how it works. You know what I mean? Okay, so that fight is resuming there. Okay, that's in the control room. Now, let's look at other parts of the lab. Let's go over to C building really quick, because a lot of stuff was happening there. This was the location where Pythagoras originally was attacked and explodified, and we find out that his head managed to survive. So this was the location where S-Snake showed up and petrified. It was York as well as Usopp and Lilith. Okay, Lilith used the bubble gun to try to, like, stop her, but it didn't work out. You know, So what happened there is Usopp and Lilith are still currently petrified. Frankie was partially petrified, as in like 85-90% of his body was petrified. The only part that was not petrified was, I think, his left arm, his shoulder, and like half of his face. And so that was the last time we saw Frankie, where he was just like, come over here, you stupid seraphim, I can still kick your ass with just one arm, you know what I mean? And so S-Snake just kind of looked over at him and just like walked right by Frankie, didn't even care. Walked over to Pythagoras. Pythagoras was there just like, why are you doing this, S-Snake? Why? And then like just stomped down on Pythagoras, and then there was just this giant explosion, all right? Which is a little alarming, because a giant explosion occurs. I guess Pythagoras just has like a nuclear core in him or something, like big boom happened, okay? And I'm a little worried because, you know, Lilith and Usopp are stoned, so if they fell, they were like on top of like a catwalk area. Like there was like, you know, they were kind of on a precarious location that just blew up, and now they're gonna fall down. You know, obviously I don't think this is how Usopp's story ends. Like he falls, shatters into a million pieces, and it's just like, that's just the end of Usopp. Or maybe we could do like a Dr. Stone thing with it, where even maybe if Usopp did fall down and shatter apart, but you can like glue him back together or whatever, and then you can, you know, S-Snake can depetrify him, and then he'll be fine. You know, maybe something like that. But that did happen. So Pythagoras, you know, he escaped the first attack, but now the second attack seemed to have gotten him. He didn't really seem like he could really defend himself when he was just his head with like little tiny arms coming out, right? So I'm a little worried about Pythagoras right now. And so S-Snake also petrified York, but then we learned that York, like that was part of the plan. You know, it was like, oh, petrify me first, so it looks like, you know, I'm off the hook, and then come back and depetrify me later, which S-Snake does after the explosion. Depetrifies York. York is like, great, and then goes to meet Vegapunk down in the basement, okay? So that's the situation over there. The only person right now on the third floor that might be conscious is Frankie, or maybe Pythagoras if he somehow managed to escape, but I'm thinking he probably didn't. I'm assuming they could just repair him, maybe. I'm not really sure how that works out with Pythagoras, because he definitely seems more robot than anything. But moving on over to the A-Wing, we had Nami and Brooke on floor 3, as well as Edison. Edison got attacked by, I believe, S-Shark, and then Sanji showed up out of nowhere after Nami screamed. And so the fight, I believe, is still there. Third floor, Sanji was brawling with S-Shark, who is the Seraphim Jinbei, okay? So I think they are all currently on that floor. One level below, the second level of floor of Building A, was Robin, Chopper, and Atlas, and they were in the area with the organelles, you know, the organoids or whatever they were called. You know, organelles, I think that's actually the name of the organs inside of individual cells, but the organoids, I think they were called. And those are the artificial organs that Vegapunk was creating, like in his medical science research lab, okay? So that was the floor 2 of Building A. So they were there, but then Atlas was like, oh, wait, everybody, I have an idea. I think I might know where the Stella body went. Might be in the secret lab in the basement, the old Devil Fruit research lab that's been sealed off forever. Let's go there. Keep in mind, all of the Straw Hats, as well as the Cypher Poles, I think except for Lucci and Kaku, they're all wearing the Dom shoes. So they're able to, like, fly. They're able to, like, levitate. I don't think Kaku or Lucci got a pair. Stussy does. All the Satellites do, and all of the Straw Hats do, I believe. So they can, like, float around a little bit more freely. It was also Robin and Chopper's group was the only group that was not attacked by a Seraphim directly, okay? So I guess Stussy and Jinbei weren't attacked either, but Sanji went to go fight a Seraphim, right? Also, from something we learned in a chapter a little while ago, there are other Seraphim. There's S Flamingo, S Bats, which would be Gecko Moria, and then there's also S Crocodile, okay? But they are all out in the world on other missions right now, so the idea that they're gonna pop in like S Flamingo was in the lab the entire time, probably not going to happen, no. I mean, even if they move back, they're on other parts of the world on other missions dealing with, like, quelling rebellions. So, yeah, they're not going to be there on the island right now. So it's the only 4 Seraphim we have to deal with, but that's definitely plenty. So they are currently heading down to the laboratory basement, and then finally in Building B, second floor, we have Jinbei and Stussy. You know, Sanji left. So Jinbei and Stussy were actually flying away to an undisclosed location. Stussy was communicating with Sentomaru last time we saw her, and she was basically just bringing Sentomaru up to speed and everything like that. And this is actually good gives us a good cutaway to Sentomaru, who's not in the labosphere, is actually in the fabrication sphere below in the factory. Okay, so it was in the major factory there. It was kind of reinforced, where it was like an evacuation shelter where all the scientists came in after the attacks began. And so Sentomaru got attacked, got stabbed by Lucci, so he's in there kind of being recovered and, healed up. And then he pulls the switch and activates 50 Mark III Pacifista models, okay? So these are, they're not Seraphim, but they are Pacifistas that are capable of using the bubble shield technology and firing off the lasers, and are just more hardy and probably more intelligent, and a lot more mobility, and just everything like the upgraded form of the Pacifistas that we've seen at like Sabaody and things like that, okay? So Sentomaru is aware that the knowledge that Vegapunk possesses is now a threat to the world government, and so that he realizes, like, okay, the world government's going to stop at nothing to end us. And unlike O'Hara, which a simple buster call would suffice, they know that Vegapunk at Egghead has, like, defensive tech. So O'Hara, there was no defense. There was no, like retaliation. It was just send a buster call and burn the island down. But, Egghead's got the Frontier Dome. They got the Pacifistas. They got gun turrets. They got mechanized sea beasts patrolling the outside of the island. Sentomaru is not an idiot. He knows that, like, they're gonna send everything but the kitchen sink. They might even start hurling kitchen sinks at us. They're gonna send a full fighting force. And they also are aware that Kizaru is coming. So, Sentomaru's like, okay, Uncle Kizaru is coming. This isn't good. This isn't good. I don't think they know the Gorosei is coming. They don't know St. J. Garcia is coming. But they are. They're coming in a big way, okay? So Sentomaru's like, okay, mobilize the Pacifista Mark IIIs, told all of the scientists to evacuate. Now, a lot of the Cypherpole agents that were remaining on the fabrication sphere, Lucci and Kaku and Stussy went above, but they all stayed behind. They started attacking the ports. So hopefully there's at least one port left. The Pacifistas are going to bust their way through the government agents. They seem to be doing a pretty good job of that already. They're going to reach the ships and start, like, helping, like, evacuate, please, citizen, escape the island, So hopefully the civilians will be able to get away from the island before shit really gets live, okay? So, dude, this is really insane when you stop to think about it. We got, like, I don't even know, dozens and dozens of Marine battleships. We got vice admirals heading their way. Dahl was going, Kadar was going. There was a random Marine that had a bunch of chins that's going to show up. Kizaru's going to be there. St. J. Garcia Saturn is going to be there, and that's relevant because we now know that St. J. Garcia, all of the Gorosei now have fighting capabilities. They took a point-blank fire fist from Sabo, and they were fine, and they have transformations and everything like that, so we know he's going to be able to do something cool. He's not just going to be a defenseless, like, old man that can't really fight or anything like that. So we got all these there, and then plus all the, like, the mechanized sea beasts are probably going to pop out of the water next chapter and start, like, bombarding the Marine battleships. Some are probably going to get taken down by that, but then you can have the vice admirals just show up. I would love to see, I would love to see Dahl just show what she's capable of, like, all the vice admirals at once. Like, Kizaru doesn't even need to do anything yet. All the vice admirals mobilize at once, jump off the ship, and they each take out one of the mechanized sea beasts. So we see Dahl just, I don't know, take off her cool, like, BDSM choker, and she just, like, armament hockeys that up around her fist and just boom, punches out one of the mechanized sea beasts. That would be hot. That would be cool. I mean hot. I mean cool. I mean hot. All right. And maybe Momonga's going to be there. I want Momonga to be there. He cut down one of the Sea Kings at Amazon Lily. I want to see him do it again. So we're going to see that before Kizaru even does anything. He's not even going to lift a finger against those things. Then they get on the island, and then they have to start fighting an army of Pacifistas, and that's going to be fun, okay? So that's what's up with the Marines, civilians. Sentomaru's in the factory. He's staying behind. All the civilians are leaving, but he chose to stay behind. Sentomaru could die here. I mean, like, I don't think he's that popular of a character, and people are seemingly dying a lot more in the final saga, so we'll see what that rolls on. Let's not forget about Caribou, ladies and gentlemen. Let's not forget about Caribou, because Caribou, I feel like he has a part to play in all this, all right? Now, the kicker with this is that you saw the blob thing that disengaged all of the Den Mushis that was, like, knocking out the Den Mushis, like Shaka was looking at that. We'll get to the satellites, too, in a moment. The whole Vegapunk thing I'm going to round it out with. But Caribou, that could have very well have been him. Now, a lot of people were saying, well, wait a second. We saw the Gorosei transform into those silhouetted blobs, and we saw a similar silhouette on Egghead, so maybe it was St. J. Garcia Saturn. Now, I find that a little bit hard to believe because just now we're seeing the Marine battleships arriving at Egghead. The idea is they are just now getting there. Now, I'm not going to completely discount the possibility because the Gorosei are such an unknown factor. Maybe St. J. Garcia Saturn has some ability to travel very fast or to teleport. Or remember, St. J. Garcia Saturn is the warrior god of scientific defense. So that's like Vegapunk, and Egghead is kind of his jurisdiction. And Vegapunk does have access to, at least we know, some type of teleportation technology. Like, he had that to, like, warp around the island. So I'm not completely discounting the idea that the, Marines are about to approach and St. J. Garcia Saturn is there and Kizaru is kind of there, like, watching him and being his bodyguard and everything like that. And, oh, by the way, there was a little bit of a change in Kizaru's, like, speech. So when we saw the chapter with St. J. Garcia, like, when we got his name, and it was, like, such a big deal, Kizaru seemed, like, a little bit on edge. Like, he was a lot more curt with the way that he treated his men around St. J. Garcia. And I think that was because Kizaru normally, it's, like, unpredictable justice. He doesn't really know what he's up to. He's usually a very chill kind of guy, unclear justice. But this time he seemed a lot more on edge. Because it's like, oh, okay, I am, like, not just an admiral on a mission, I'm an admiral on a mission, but I'm also, like, the personal bodyguard of a Gorosei. This, like, no matter what, St. J. Garcia Saturn cannot die. No matter what. And they're about to head into a damn war zone. So you can understand why Kizaru's, even he, is a little bit nervous here, because the Gorosei almost, like, never leave Marijois, like, ever. And the fact he's leaving is like, oh man, if St. J. Garcia Saturn dies, Kizaru might get legitimately executed for that. If a Gorosei died on his watch while he was, like, his bodyguard, they might just execute him, all right? So Kizaru's a little bit like, hey, bring a chair over here for St. J. Garcia Saturn. Hey, bring him some snacks. Make sure they're tested for poison first, all right? Oh, man, I'm not cut out for this kind of crap, man. This is too much pressure, dude. I need a little bit of something to take the edge off. Something with Kizaru. And Kizaru just takes a bunch of edibles or something. All right. So I'm just throwing that out there, okay? Now, maybe St. J. Garcia... Maybe St. J. Garcia Saturn is like, I'm going to warp to the island and do some initial reconnaissance or whatever. Maybe. But I'm thinking it's not him. I think he's still on the ship with Kizaru, and they haven't reached the island yet, or rather, they are just approaching the island in the last one. Also, the Frontier Dome is back up again. So this is assuming not only St. J. Garcia Saturn could somehow warp to the island ahead of Kizaru and the rest, also assuming that he would want to do that, like go in alone, but also he'd be able to breach the Frontier Dome. All of this stuff is feasible. You could factor in York being the traitor and everything. I just think that blob that took out all of the cameras, that was Caribou. York might have run into Caribou and then been like, hey, you're going to listen to me now. And Caribou, I mean, like, he already hates the Straw Hats. He'll kind of listen to whatever. But also the fact York is a giant, sexy woman. Caribou might be like, all right, like, you don't even need to, like, it's like, I'm the traitor. I'm actually going to be like, oh, no, you don't need to explain yourself. You're a giant woman wearing, like, a bikini bottom. I'm okay with, you want me to take out the cameras? All right, I'll do that. Whatever, sure. Okay, so Caribou's definitely doing stuff. All right, now, going back to the Vegapunks here, end us out here. Okay, Shaka, Vegapunk number 1, got his head blown out by York, so he might be dead. We also have number 2, that was Lilith. She got turned into stone by S-Snake. She's still in the 3rd level with Usopp, frozen, or petrified as it were. Edison was attacked by S-Shark. He's not looking too good. Nami was kind of cradling him. Brook, I believe, is heading down to the basement as well in soul form. Yeah, he's also heading down there, right? I think I missed that. Yeah, he was also doing that. So then we have Pythagoras, who was attacked by S-Snake, so he's not probably around anymore. Atlas was repaired and is heading toward the basement, and then York is the traitor, and the Stella Body, as well as Cypher Pool 5 and Cypher Pool 8, Cypher Pool, 5, 7, and 8, the remnants of them are still down below in the underground Devil Fruit Research Lab that was sealed off, okay? So Vegapunk is detained in the jail cell. He has a C prism cuff on him. He's not cuffed like both of his arms, just one of his arms is cuffed, so he can't use his ability, and he's also he's just very drained right now, okay? And so he can't really move around too well. And then York shows up and kind of tells Vegapunk her master plan of, like, there doesn't need to be 6 or 7 of us, Stella. There only needs to be one Vegapunk, and I'm going to become a celestial dragon, because when we visited Marijois, I got to see the celestial dragons and all of their opulence, and York is the Vegapunk that embodies greed or desire. And so that's like the reason, like, I want that level of decadence. The highest level of decadence in the world is my ultimate desire, okay? And that's what I do, right? So it kind of makes sense in terms of motivation. The way that she's going about it is like, the celestial dragons are never going to accept her, like, ever. Like, that's not going to happen in a million years. And I think she might just starting to be realizing that, like, they're sending the Marines and Kizaru and everybody to just wipe everybody out. They're not going to let York live, And so we got the flashback with York and everything, calling all the Seraphim together, giving them the orders, order for S-Snake to petrify her and everything like that. So York is still in the basement discussing this with Stella, and Shaka's dead on the floor, or like out on the floor. So I think this is going to come to a head with Robin and Atlas and Chopper arriving. Also, maybe Brooke in soul form will appear and be like, yo, oh no, and then he goes back up and then just like tries to tell everybody what's going on, right? So they have to get down into this laboratory. But yeah, Robin is going to be there, and she's really powerful. She can deal with a giant woman. She dealt with a giant woman at Wano with Black Maria. Robin can deal with York, I'm assuming, because I think York even mentions that, like, my attack power is not even on the level of the Seraphim. So I think Robin and Chopper, like Robin going Demonio, Chopper going in Monster Point, I think should be able to tackle and take care of York, unless I guess one of the Seraphim shows up. But they're all kind of dealing, no, S-Snake could show up. Yeah, S-Shark is fighting Sanji. Hawk is currently running through the lab on, Zoro and Kaku are on his heels, and then S-Bear is taken care of right now. But one of the Seraphim that is what I guess would be available would be S-Snake. So S-Snake may be heading toward the basement right now to rendezvous with York. So even if Robin and Chopper show up, they might be able to deal with York, but then boom, S-Snake shows up, and then, okay, now we have an actual fight on our hands, okay? So, yeah, now with the case with Shaka, I mean, he was shot, and, like, there's oil and blood everywhere, and it's like, oh, God. Would it be able to, like, resurrect him somehow? Is, like, there a backup unit in, like, the Frontier Dome or something like that? Maybe. Vegapunk is just like, I have Shaka saved on this in this flash drive. We'll be good. We could just re-download his brain into a new body. We'll be all right? Maybe. I don't know. Okay, and I actually forgot about one person, and I can't believe I forgot her, but Jewerly Bonney, who is also currently on Egghead right now. But you have to understand, Bonnie's story is kind of separate from the Straw Hats and, like, the Satellites and Seraphim battles and everything like that. Like, even the very reason why she is there. So she was originally there to kill Vegapunk, but also she wanted to learn about her father and, like, what the situation with Kuma, and why did Vegapunk, like, remove his humanity and his memories and everything like that. And she confronted him for a little while, and he basically told her, hey, look, I can't tell you. I made a promise to Kuma. She found the paw room, which contains the memory bubble, so all of Kuma's memories, compressed down into a bubble using his paw fruit ability. And Bonnie went in there initially, and she saw Kuma's childhood. She saw her father living as a slave, trying to escape his master, and then the other slaves beat the crap out of him because it was like, hey, if you leave Kuma, we're going to get killed too. We're all going to be punished, so you have to come back with us. And he's just crying. It is like, I don't want to be a slave. I don't want to be there, right? And so that actually knocked, just the trauma of that alone was enough to knock Bonnie out of the bubble. And so now she had to kind of like, take a deep breath, kind of reassess everything and go back in the bubble. And the last time we saw her, she was still in the paw room, and I couldn't tell from the perspective of the chapter. She was either still in the memory bubble, like crying, or she was outside of the bubble crying. She was one of the two, and it's kind of the same, end result either way. But I guess in one version, she's still viewing the memories of her father, and in another one, she's already viewed all the memories, and now she knows everything. But yeah, that's where Bonnie's currently at right now, in the paw straw room. I would say the room is a little bit more reinforced. I don't think we know exactly where that room is located in the lab. There was a pretty heavy lock on it, but she corroded that using her time ability, or not her time fruit, her time aging ability, which the name of the fruit we still do not know. But yeah, she's still in that room. So I don't know. Maybe Robin, Chopper, and Atlas will pass by the room, and then Bonnie will come out and be like, "Where are you guys going?" Something like that. But Bonnie is still in the building, and she will be probably involved in this, whether she likes it or not. But just right now, at the moment, she's kind of separate from everybody. But anyway, I think that's all the major locations and people and the players of the Egghead arc, as it were. A lot of moving parts with just this section of the story, you know what I mean? So I felt it pertinent to make this video to kind of recap everything. Thanks to you all for watching, and we're on break next week coming up, but after that, we're going to resume with Chapter 1089, and we're going to get right back in to Egghead Island. So thank you all for watching. This will be Teching, Barry, and all of the Straw Hats signing out. Later, everyone.